Sacramento, California. A city known for its sunlit streets and vibrant community. A sun-drenched city with a dark secret lurking in its shadows. In its quiet streets, a charming older woman ran a boarding house, a seemingly kind soul offering affordable rooms to those in need. Her name was Dorothea Puente. Dorothea Puente, they called her. A sweet, grandmotherly figure who seemed to embody kindness and generosity. But beneath the surface, a heart of darkness beat. Her outward appearance was a carefully crafted facade. Dorothea Puente was a master manipulator, skilled in the art of deception. She preyed on the vulnerable, the lost, the forgotten, those who had nowhere else to turn. Her smile was disarming, her demeanor warm and inviting. She seemed to be the perfect landlady. She offered a safe haven, a place to rest their weary heads, a sanctuary for those in need. Little did they know, they were stepping into a house of horrors, a place where their worst nightmares would come true. Behind the facade of a caring landlady, Dorothea Puente harbored a sinister secret. A secret that would eventually unravel. Her boarding house, a seemingly ordinary home on F Street, was a death trap. A place where many met their untimely end. The scent of freshly baked cookies often wafted through the air, masking the odor of death that clung to the property. It was all part of her ruse. Unbeknownst to her unsuspecting tenants, their landlady was not who she appeared to be. She was far more dangerous. Behind her gentle facade lurked a cold-blooded killer, preying on the very people who trusted her the most. Her true nature was chilling. Dorothea Puente was living a double life, and her true nature would soon send shockwaves through the community. The revelation of her crimes would leave an indelible mark on Sacramento. The boarding house on F Street attracted a particular kind of tenant, those who had nowhere else to turn. Down on their luck, struggling with addiction, or simply alone in the world, they came to Dorothea's door seeking refuge, hoping for a second chance. They found in her a listening ear, a shoulder to cry on, and a warm meal. Dorothea seemed to be the answer to their prayers, a beacon of hope in their darkest times. Many of her tenants were elderly, their bodies frail, their minds fading. They were in need of care and compassion, something Dorothea appeared to offer in abundance. Others battled mental illness, their grip on reality tenuous at best. They sought stability and understanding, which they believed they had found in Dorothea. They were the invisible members of society, forgotten and overlooked. In Dorothea's boarding house, they felt seen and valued, a rare comfort in their lives. Dorothea knew how to spot vulnerability. She had an uncanny ability to identify those who were most in need, and she used this skill to her advantage. She would shower them with attention, offering a helping hand with their finances or a sympathetic ear to their troubles. Her kindness seemed boundless. She became their confidant, their caretaker, their only source of support. To them, she was a savior, someone they could trust implicitly. Little did they know, they were being drawn into her web of manipulation, their trust easily earned and tragically misplaced. They were unaware of the danger lurking behind her facade. For Dorothea Puente saw in their vulnerability not a call for compassion, but an opportunity for exploitation. She preyed on their weaknesses, turning their need for help into her own gain. Dorothea Puente's weapon of choice was subtle, insidious. She would befriend her tenants, gaining their trust. She'd cook for them, clean for them, even manage their finances, all the while slowly poisoning them with a deadly cocktail of drugs. Their deaths, when they came, seemed peaceful, almost natural. An elderly man suffering a heart attack in his sleep, a woman with a history of addiction succumbing to an overdose. No one suspected foul play, least of all the authorities. Dorothea's motive, investigators would later learn, was as chilling as it was calculated. She would cash her tenants' social security checks, their deaths going unnoticed until the checks stopped coming. She was a predator in plain sight, hiding her crimes in the mundane, her victims disappearing one by one, their absences easily explained away. Her house of horrors remained undetected, a macabre secret hidden beneath a veneer of normalcy. The charade couldn't last forever. When a concerned social worker reported a missing tenant, the police began asking questions. Their investigation led them to 1426 F Street, to the seemingly unassuming home of Dorothea Puente. At first, Dorothea played the role of the concerned landlady, expressing shock and disbelief at the allegations. But as the police dug deeper, her story began to unravel. A faint, sickly, sweet odor hung in the air, a telltale sign that something was amiss. The officers obtained a search warrant, their suspicions growing with each passing moment. Behind the house, in the meticulously maintained garden, they found what they were looking for, or rather, what they hoped they wouldn't find. The earth was soft, recently disturbed. As the officers dug, they unearthed a gruesome discovery that would send shockwaves through the community and beyond. The nightmare was about to unfold. Section 5. Unearthing the gruesome truth: bodies in the backyard. The discovery of the first body sent a chill down the spines of even the most seasoned investigators. Buried in the shallow grave wrapped in plastic was the body of a man, his features barely recognizable. As the police continued to dig, they unearthed more bodies, each one a grim reminder of the horrors that had unfolded in the heart of their city. The garden that had once been Dorothea's pride and joy was now a macabre graveyard. 7 bodies in total were exhumed from the property, each one telling a silent story of betrayal and murder. The victims, mostly elderly and vulnerable, had been drugged, suffocated, or buried alive. Dorothea Puente, the seemingly harmless landlady, stood accused of multiple counts of murder, her reign of terror finally brought to an end. The evidence was overwhelming, the details too gruesome to ignore. Section 6. Justice is served, a sentence for heinous crimes. The trial of Dorothea Puente was a media sensation, drawing attention from across the nation. The public was captivated by the shocking details that emerged. The courtroom was packed with journalists, curious onlookers, and grieving family members of the victims. Every seat was filled, and the tension in the air was palpable. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence, painting a picture of a cold, calculating killer who preyed on the weak and vulnerable. They meticulously detailed each crime, leaving no stone unturned. Dorothea, for her part, maintained her innocence, claiming that the deaths were from natural causes or suicide. Her defense team argued passionately, but the evidence was overwhelming, but the jury didn't buy it. They saw through her facade and were convinced of her guilt. The evidence against her was too strong, her crimes too heinous to ignore. The testimonies of the victims' families were heart-wrenching and left a lasting impact on everyone present. After a lengthy trial, Dorothea Puente was found guilty on 3 counts of first-degree murder and guilty of manslaughter in the deaths of 6 other people. The verdict brought a sense of closure to some, but the pain remained. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Her fate was sealed, and she would spend the rest of her days behind bars. Justice, it seemed, had been served. The courthouse steps, once bustling with activity, now stood silent as the day drew to a close. But for the families of the victims, the pain and the questions lingered. They struggled to understand how such a betrayal could happen. How could someone they had trusted so completely betray them in such a horrific way? The memories of their loved ones haunted them, and the search for answers continued. Section 7. Behind bars, unrepentant and unremorseful. Even behind bars, Dorothea Puente remained an enigma. She continued to deny her crimes, claiming that she was a compassionate caretaker who had simply been trying to help those less fortunate. She portrayed herself as a victim, a misunderstood woman who had been wrongly accused. Despite the overwhelming evidence against her, she showed no remorse for her actions, expressing no sympathy for the families of the people she had murdered. Her lack of remorse was chilling, a testament to her cold-blooded nature. In prison, Dorothea Puente became a macabre celebrity. She granted interviews, wrote letters, and even sold her artwork, capitalizing on her notoriety. Her story became the stuff of legend, a cautionary tale of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most ordinary-seeming individuals. Section 8. The Shadow of Death House, a community scarred. The crimes of Dorothea Puente cast a long shadow over the city of Sacramento. The house on F Street, once a place of refuge for the vulnerable, became a symbol of horror, a grim reminder of the capacity for evil that exists within the human heart. The community was left reeling, struggling to come to terms with the fact that such atrocities could occur in their midst. Neighbors who had known Dorothea, who had shared coffee and conversation with her, were left to grapple with the knowledge that they had been living next door to a monster. The case also exposed systemic failures in the social services system, highlighting the vulnerability of those living on the margins of society. The victims, many of whom suffered from mental illness or addiction, had fallen through the cracks, their disappearances unnoticed until it was too late. Section 9. A Legacy of Deceit, reminders in the present. Dorothea Puente died in prison in 2011 at the age of 82, but her legacy of deceit and murder lives on, a chilling reminder that evil can wear many faces. The house on F Street still stands, a silent sentinel to the horrors that unfolded within its walls. The case of the death house landlady continues to fascinate and horrify, the subject of books, documentaries, and countless true crime podcasts. It serves as a stark reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and that even the most unassuming individuals can harbor dark secrets. And so, the story of Dorothea Puente endures, a cautionary tale whispered on the streets of Sacramento, a testament to the enduring power of evil and the importance of vigilance in a world where monsters can hide in plain sight.